Pedro Pascal has basically stepped into the role of the world stepdad. He's that lovable face. He's in all these shows where he is the stepdad to a Grogu, to a Yoda-like figure, a stepdad to a person who may have been the savior for the world in a zombie apocalypse, but chose not to sacrifice her for that, and of course, a real dad to Franklin Richards, as he is Reed Richards, and the Fantastic Four coming to theaters in about 6 weeks. But Pedro Pascal, along with some other famous figures, faces like Ariana Grande and Dua Lipa, are a part of a big deal, signing an open letter urging the United States government to maintain $50 million in federal funding for LGBTQ plus youth suicide prevention services. We're going to talk about these services more in a moment when we get to the second half. But the letter organized by the Trevor Project addressed concerns over the proposed budget cuts to 988 Suicide Crisis Lifeline, specialized for services for LGBTQ plus youth. Since the launch of this in 2022, the revamp of the Suicide Prevention Lifeline to a text line, something you can text or call on your cell phone as opposed to a full 800 number, the program has connected to nearly 1.3 million crisis contacts affirming care. This is totally all total, not just folks who are LGBTQ plus. Now, the people who signed on this thing for the youth that are there say that LGBTQ plus youth are more than 4 times as likely to attempt suicide compared to their peers. They argue that removing this funding would have devastating consequences and send harmful messages to vulnerable youth and people in general. The letter states, stripping away this lifeline leaves LGBTQ plus youth with the message that their lives are not worth saving. We refuse to accept that message. This letter highlights the role of public figures in providing representation and support, a certain invisibility that life-saving marginalized youth have and they need from folks who can push the right buttons. It concludes with the message of solidarity. You may feel like no one hears you, but we do. We will keep showing up and speaking out. We will not stop fighting for you. Let's talk about the Trevor Project. The CEO of the Trevor Project, James Black, expressed gratitude for support, stating that suicide prevention is about people, not politics. All people, and not the politics of who you're liking or not liking. This organization continues to advocate for preservation of critical services in the upcoming federal budget. In the goal to slash waste and abuse, what's being cut are low-hanging fruit, things out there that are smaller bits and pieces of, when they find scraps in the budget to fund various projects. These scraps are being put out there because they're not major things. We're not cutting planes from the budget for the military. In fact, we have to make more planes because we keep dropping them into the ocean, apparently. We are cutting smaller issues and, of course, just firing large groups of people who just seem to be sitting there to find out that, no, they're not just sitting there. They're watching our world and keeping us safe. So losing funding to 988, and we'll talk more about that again in the second half because another big story dealing with that right now is an issue. And this letter focusing on LGBTQ plus youth who need a lifeline in many cases for the cost of the services is out there. And I'll talk more deeply about this in the upcoming story because this is something that actually I advocate for personally. It affects me personally. So we will definitely hit this one more time.